This is an extract from a 1-hour interview. To watch the full interview, you can click below to join the Get Gallery Ready course. Until then, enjoy the video. Hi, Meryl. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for inviting me. My name is Meryl Ainslie, and I started Rabley Gallery 20 years ago. We are slightly unusual in that we were one of the first, I think, rural galleries outside London. So it's been a very interesting and maybe slightly different journey to most gallery models.
How did you come to establish your own gallery?
In a previous incarnation, I was a fine art lecturer, and I wrote and ran a specific drawing HND, and then we had a degree program in drawing. So this is in the 1990s, when drawing was just coming back to the fore. And I think we were the first specific drawing HND and degree in the country. So that was very exciting. And I worked on that program for about 10 years through the writing and then working on the program. And some of our tutors were fabulous artists like Sadie Tierney and Emma Stibben, artists that I still work with now. So yeah, I have very long relationships with my core artists, and we can talk a little bit about how one establishes and works with artists over a long period of time. So our first exhibition in the gallery here was, in fact, Emma Stibben. It's about 1,000 square foot barn, Victorian barn. We wanted to retain the barn integrity, but also to make it a lovely gallery space. So that's what we did. And we have another barn, which we made into a drawing room and a print room.
And speaking of the artists that you work with, if you go to your website or if you go to the gallery, you'll see that they're described as some of them international reputations, and some of them emerging talent. Can you tell me a bit more about what that means?
Yeah, for sure. I suppose it's what traditionally is known as a stable of artists. Seems quite appropriate for a rural barn, really. So what would we say? I suppose you're trying to create diversity and interest, for me, within a specialism, because obviously we're specialists in drawings and works on paper. So the artists that we show, even if their work then goes into painting or whatever, is driven by drawing as a practice. And that kind of is a bit of glue that holds it together. You have established collectors and new collectors, and you have to keep your established collectors interested. So you need to have new people coming on. You have established artists whose work will be more expensive usually, and will already have established collectors. And so some of the funds that come from those collectors can then help you support younger collectors. And it's got to sort of feel like there's something cohesive to me about that selection of artists. In reality, we're a small gallery and we only represent about a dozen artists. And I get about 10 approaches from artists a week to show their work. We can talk a little about that, the do's and don'ts of that. I do try and have a look at everyone, but essentially you cannot look after more than the manpower you have to properly take care of those artists. That means talking about ideas, visiting their studios, preparing the exhibitions, preparing the catalogues, taking them to exhibitions, dealing with the collectors, dealing with museums and galleries, doing the follow-ups, doing the consignments, looking after work. There's a lot of elements to it. We're open to the public Thursday to Saturday when we have exhibitions. So it's just that trying to manage your relationship with the artist. There's a limited number of artists that one can look after well, I feel. I would try and keep that spread of young or newly emerging artists. That doesn't mean they're young. It just means they're not, maybe not as fully developed in terms of their practice and their experience, through to more international artists. I need them all, and hopefully they need me all too. So how do we see an artist's work? How do we see a new artist's work? So your job as an artist is to make the work. And if you don't make the work to a consistent standard, it is almost impossible for a gallery to take you on. If you don't get it seen and get that experience, do the opens. I go to the opens, things like Woolwich, fantastic open call they have. I'm there as a gallery. I walk around, do group shows, enter for things. You just have to develop very broad shoulders. You will get rejected. It's part of the deal. Find a strategy for deal with it. When that letter comes, you read the first line, you know what the next line is going to be. You fold it up, you put it on the side, you go for a walk, you come back and you think, yeah, I'll look at that tomorrow and arrange for it to be collected. And it's really hard, but it doesn't stop you doing it. You've just got to do it. And you've got to put some money aside to do that, because there's a cost to submitting work to opens. But sometimes I'll think, oh, I'm not doing that because they rejected me. And they haven't rejected you. It's just on that day, your work wasn't selected. Think about it that way. It's not a rejection. It's just on that day, it wasn't selected.
That is incredibly helpful. And also, there's two things that you mentioned. The first is, as an artist, you've got to be making the work and you've got to be putting it out there. And that means enter the opens, enter open calls, look at the judges, look at previous exhibitions, see if that's the caliber of thing.
Visit the exhibitions, visit the galleries, go to exhibitions, go more than once. Don't go prepared to talk about yourself. Go and engage with the artwork that is there. Try and understand why that artwork is being shown. It's very simple things like that. Try and do the opens, make the work, do your research, go to galleries. A lot of what we do is social. Make yourself do it. You never know who you're talking to. Speak to everyone with respect, be interested in people, and sometimes people will then ask you about yourself, and sometimes not, but Rome wasn't built in a day. Don't be overwhelmed. Just do what you do and do it to the best of your ability. And however hard it is, the most important thing is you have to be able to coexist with your life as an artist. So don't be too hard on yourselves. It's a tough call. It's the hardest job in the world. So just don't be too tough on yourselves.
Thank you for watching this clip from our interview. To watch the full 1-hour interview and get practical advice to work with galleries, then click the link below and join the Get Gallery Ready course. This in-depth course for artists includes 5 sessions covering everything you need to know about galleries, 5 interviews with artists sharing their top tips with you, and 5 interviews with gallery directors so you can hear directly what they look for, how to approach them, how to get represented by a gallery, and so much more. Until then, we hope you enjoyed this video and you can click below to learn more and get started.